Good morning, good afternoon, depends when you watch this and where you're at. I wanted to talk about, because some people ask me after all these years, why I'm kind of relaunching my alcohol addiction solution. It's not that I ever really stopped working with addiction. I kind of pulled back and I was doing a lot of NLP trainings and a lot of other stuff, a lot of my second career, the acting, which I still do. But I've always worked with addictions. But why I'm kind of relaunching it now is I'm working on an app and a few other things. It's because of the misinformation that's out there and why I couldn't keep quiet anymore and why you shouldn't fall for the snake oil salesman tactics that I see a lot going on about alcohol-free programs, if you will, or addiction-free programs. Um, so let me start with, well, most people don't realize about addictions, and something I've said forever. The alcohol, the drugs, which is what most people focus on, and I work a lot with, executives and entrepreneurs and professionals that drink too much. Several people like that. But what people don't realize when they look at the addiction, the alcohol and the drugs isn't really the problem. You know, because don't forget, it's not just alcohol and drugs. You can become addicted to food, to gambling, to processes, to people, to places, to things. I mean, and what you have to do is back up a step and look at it, right? And what's really going on. It's what's driving that addictive behavior, which is people with alcohol and drug problems. It was their solution for many years. The alcohol, the drugs, whatever the behavior is, was the solution for something going on inside. They didn't feel comfortable in their own skin. They didn't know how to connect with another human being. Could be from childhood. A lot of research says that, or they had a trauma, so they weren't able to bond. And so then the first time they had a drink or a drug, or could be the process addictions, but I'll focus on, let's say, a drink. The fact is that when that booze first hit your system, it released a flood of dopamine and that's where people say, oh, it was like a warm hug. Here, drink this. It'll feel like a warm hug. Right? It's because it's the dopamine that's released, right? So really you're addicted to the dopamine boost, right? And then there's several other factors that go into this that most people don't realize, especially the people that are just pushing a product. And the science has really changed in the last few decades of what's going on with addictions in general, right? Well, first, now we know there's how your brain processes it, right? And it has to do with, again, with dopamine and your prefrontal cortex. If this is your brain, right? This would be your midbrain, your amygdala, the fight or flight and heart, all the stuff that keeps you alive. And the thing that would fold over it, this would be your prefrontal cortex, the thinking brain, right? And then this would go down into your body. Well, for most people, one of the breakthrough studies was they took people that, let's say, people that drink too much, right? And they put them in an MRI and they say, think about whatever your favorite drink, beer, wine, whatever it is, right? And what happens for a lot of the people, their prefrontal cortex lights up, right? They're thinking about it, but they're thinking, I got something to do tonight. I got to go to a soccer game. Tomorrow I got to get up early, whatever. They can think through the behavior. And so they'll go, no, not right now. They'll wait. They're able to do that. They can think through consequences. But for a small select few, what happens is they start thinking about the drink, and then their prefrontal cortex if you're in the MRI, it goes dark. It goes offline. Your midbrain lights up and you go into fight or flight. That's all you can think about. That's what we call, a mental obsession. And it can even start a physical compulsion because then your brain's kicking in and it wants that dopamine. It wants that boost, right? And then it'll start searching, how do I get this in the past? Have a drink, smoke a joint, whatever it is, right? Boom, right? And so that's the difference. But a lot of people don't know that. The other problem that's really driving me crazy is two things. One is the sample size. Someone quits drinking on their own, and then they develop a whole protocol on a sample size of one, right? And then they'll only point out the successes, right? And maybe this is the bad part about being a scientist, if you will, a doctor in clinical psychology. So, you got to know how to do research. Well, and these people say, well, I have a X amount success rate. Well, I would always ask, how do you know? What's your metric? Well, they don't call me back for a follow-up session, or I never hear from them again, right? Well, maybe they're dead, maybe they overdosed, maybe they're in prison, they got a DUI and killed somebody in a car wreck. Well, you don't know, right? So you're extrapolating out based on a sample size of one, right? And so I'm like, and again, you can jury pick just like they do in the pharmaceutical industry. You can jury pick the results that you want. So you can, and you'll only put up the successes. You know, uh, when I work with somebody, is it successful 100% of the time? Oh no, because I don't know what that is. That does that person really want to change? As people know, especially all my friends that are coaches, therapists, peak practitioners, social workers, psychologists, whatever, is the greatest indicator of long-term success in any kind of change is how bad does the person want to do it. When it comes to alcohol, and even going back to the day of like stop smoking, all my hypnotist friends say it was always a nightmare where somebody come in and you really ask them, do you really want to quit? No, my wife's on my back, or my boss wants me to quit, or my kids, whatever. It's like, it's not going to work. And it's the same with drinking, right? We see it, and I've worked in a lot of rehabilitation type centers, inpatient, outpatient, criminal justice. I've worked in them, right? And you have to want to change. So that's the variable I can't control when people reach out. If they really want to change and they're willing to do the work, things can happen. Now, things, especially if you understand the hypnosis and NLP, there's things you can do to begin to implant openness in their mind that maybe not right now, but eventually, right? But anyway, so it's that sample size of one, right? And and then they'll do this other cool stuff, and maybe I'll be honest, I'm a little bit jealous. I see some of the marketing, and they put all these celebrities' videos up there when they talk about quitting drinking, which is wonderful, right? You see it all the time. All these celebrities, actors, singers, dancers, especially the actors and the singer and the singers. You see them, but it doesn't mean they necessarily did the program of the person that putting it up there. If they get it off YouTube, now it's public domain. You can put the video up there. It's not that they're endorsing whatever it is, right? Uh, Maybe they did work with that person. I don't know, but it's like kind of interesting, right? So there's that. So again, are they honest about like what the success ratio is? Which leads me to one. Just it makes me laugh because it lets me know the person doesn't understand how to do research, right? Or what research really is. And that is, I've seen it posted several times, and it's, I get that question when I'm doing consulting in a rehab and I'm teaching a group or something. Somebody say, yeah, but I understand the research says, let's say Alcoholics Anonymous or Narcotics Anonymous is only successful for 1 out of 10. Well, first of all, you cannot do research on an anonymous program. How do you do research on an anonymous program, right? It's anonymous. Every once in a while you see a TV show where a cop show where the person is going to meetings and they go, we'll go ask people at the meeting. Well, a couple things happen if this ever happens, and I've seen it. Somebody comes in, wants to ask a question. First of all, people go, I don't know. Well, doesn't he come to this meeting? Yeah. Who is it again? Well, you don't even know if that's their real name. It's an anonymous program. Well, this guy, and they show a picture. Oh yeah, that's like the guy that puts a lot of sugar in his coffee. I mean, it's like, right? And it's even inside the 12-step world, if you will, like Alcoholics Anonymous, or I imagine Narcotics Anonymous. If you got a hold of the New York office, they have no idea who's going to meetings or not. They may know some of the contact people, the people that interact with the home group, or the home group people that interact with New York, like sending money or answering, or representatives. But that's a minority. Most people aren't. So they can't tell you what the research is, right? So if you understand how to do research, how do you do research on an anonymous program? And then the one person tried to say, well, they looked at some research, but it was all on self-reporting data from people that said they went to AA. Well, first of all, let's be honest. There's a lot of people that just don't like something that'll do a review, even though they've never done it. Just yeah, you always see those ones where someone that never ate at the restaurant gives a terrible review. They maybe you find out they own another restaurant or they have family that works at another restaurant. So how do you do this, right? And again, what's the long-term thing? There's people, maybe they'll go to a whole lot of 12-step meetings, just like therapy. You go to a lot of therapy and you get better. And then you stop therapy. Doesn't mean the therapy didn't work. No, maybe you got the result that you wanted. Maybe you went to a lot of meetings for, about a lot of months or several years, and then your life changed and you were fine and you quit going. Does that mean you go automatically back to drinking? No, it just means you grew, you changed, you got what you needed from that program. So, and it's always in flux. People go for a while and then maybe they back out for a while because life gets in the way, kids, work, other dynamics. We had a lot of shifts go on in COVID in the 12-step world. Now, I personally like the 12-step program. It works great for me. I understand it's not for everybody, right? But still, don't, when I see these, it's like, wow, how do they make these statements, right? And again, a lot of people that are going to complain the most, maybe they tried it and it didn't work, but they didn't do anything that whatever the structure is of the program or those therapists can relate to. They come into therapy, they don't do any of the work that you ask them to do, whether it's read this, listen to this, do this, write this. They don't do it. And then they say that therapy didn't work. No, you didn't work at whatever it is, right? And again, this goes back to, does the person really want to change? Now, what's interesting is you're getting a whole different movement afoot about, I call it sober is the new sexy. A lot of people just don't drink, and I'll tell one example happened to me. I was at an event and people went, it was in Vegas, and people went out partying. I don't remember if it was Friday night or Saturday. And then the next day they're down, we're all having coffee and stuff. And people are like, oh, I got a headache, all the stuff that happens. And of course, I'm trying to set aside my clinical training and everything, but they're like, oh, I barely remember what happened. So I'm thinking, well, if you actually have blackouts periods in your memory, wonk, 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 danger, danger, but I'm like, well, whatever. I said, I feel great today. I got up early. I worked out, drinking my coffee. I'm going to go to whatever I had to go to that morning and then, grab lunch. And they're like, you just don't know how to have fun. I'm like, that's an opinion. And they said, one person said, I feel sorry for you. And I remember it set something off on me. My head goes down, my eyes go up. I go into the look I have when I'm in a movie playing a serial killer. I go, no, I feel sorry for you because you don't know how to have fun or give yourself permission to have the kind of fun you want to have without drugs or alcohol. And then I left. Needless to say, did not make friends and influence people that morning, but it's like there's a movement afoot. And you see it a lot with entrepreneurs and business owners and executives that will, they begin to do the cost benefit analysis, not saying they have a drinking problem. Maybe they're just drinking too much. And they're like, the money I spend on the $1,000 bottles of wine, I could do something else with. I could do this. I could do that. Right. Or it dulls my senses. And then again, as you get older, there's this phenomenon that happens in your 30s where you don't snap back. In your 20s, you go out, you have a few drinks, get a couple hours sleep, you're able to plow through the next day. Suddenly something starts happening. You go out and you have a few drinks, and then the next day you just feel like crap. You're tired, you're lethargic, you just got a headache, all this other stuff. So anyway, I just wanted to mention those things. It's not, the alcohol and the drugs are the solution to a problem that's going on in someone's mind or in their psyche and their physical body. They don't feel comfortable in their own skin, or they never learned how to really connect with another human, right? And then they get the drugs or the alcohol in their system, and it's the first time they get the dopamine rush. They goes, ah. And then the flip side is, if you understand the current science, the other thing that begins to happen when you abuse drugs and alcohol, even if you're not an alcoholic or a drug addict, if you don't fit this model, right? You're just drinking too much. What begins to happen wherever you think pleasure is, that's a dopamine response. Like, oh, this is pleasurable. Well, what happens? You're flooding your brain with so much dopamine, right? And it's from the drugs or the alcohol. It's not going to the club. It's not going to the concert. It's not doing this. It's the drugs, the alcohol. But it sets your pleasure threshold way up here, and then you quit. And the hard part, even if you don't leave aside alcoholism or drug addiction, just you're trying to reset, you have to work through. And this is where coaching and the stuff that I do helps, is you have to just work through where you begin to bring back online what normal pleasure would be. I was working with somebody and they're saying, yeah, they did something with their family. It was over the summer. And, they were starting to complain. I think it was like a family cookout or something like that, right? And I'd have to remember. But what happened was, as they started their spouse said, wasn't that great? It was great. We all had fun. We ate. Everybody, they were playing volleyball or whatever, and everybody was pleasant. There was no fights, right? And nobody got, blasted, drank too much or anything. It was just so much fun. And that person, the reason they called me, they go, that's when they realized, because they were about to say that was boring. It was horrible, right? Well, because they needed the drinks to up the dopamine level so things could be pleasurable. But when they pulled back, they thought, yeah, it was great. The kids were there, I think his kids were grown, but the nephews, the nieces, all the people were there. It was fun. It was pleasant. And why? And he actually, that's what started the conversation. Why can't I enjoy that? I said, it's not your fault. It's not your fault. You've reset your brain, so you need the stimulus level like up here. It's like people talk about being a adrenaline junkie. It's kind of like that. It's the dopamine response. So this is the kind of stuff I do as I'm getting ready to launch the rapid addiction solution. It looks like it's going to be a app, and there's going to be a Facebook group, a private Facebook group. If you're watching this on Facebook, just direct message me. I can give you the information for the group. This is where we'll be putting a lot of this information. Is be an open group, because I want people to get this information. So that's really, excuse me, the thing that makes me want to do this again. So if you have any questions, direct message me. Go to hortonpsychology.com. I'm working on the app. I have a little app which I have videos explain it, and then if people want some coaching, sometimes the information will help you change. Sometimes seeing through the facade of all this stuff that's going on out there will help. So anyway, have a great day. Go to hortonpsychology.com. Shoot me a message in the contact form if you want more information, or the Facebook information. So have a great day.